All right. And a warm welcome to all who have gathered here in person and those of you who are joining us virtually for this celebration of Dr. Sally Rockey's retirement. I know, like me, most of you cannot believe this is happening. I will believe it when I see it. So, thank you for joining us tonight as we pay tribute to Dr. Rockey's decades of service as a passionate advocate for agricultural research. I am Dr. Shavonda Jacobs Young, the administrator of the USDA Agricultural Research Service, and as an ex officio member of the board for the Foundation of Food and Agriculture Research, or FAR as we call it, I've had the pleasure of working closely alongside Dr. Sally Rockey, FAR's inaugural executive director, for many years. FAR was created in the 2014 Farm Bill, and Sally was hired as one of FAR's first employees shortly thereafter. Kind of like shortly, right? The foundation was established to forge strategic public-private partnerships to fund audacious food and agriculture research. And we have a lot of fun talking about audacious challenges and audacious solutions. And so we are so happy to have this foundation. So over the past 8 years, Sally's leadership has built the foundation into a mighty funding force for food and agriculture research, with more than 250 grants awarded to date and numerous consortia and programs formed under Sally's stewardship. FAR continues to flourish and expand to achieve FAR's unique mission. As a scientist with research expertise, Sally was a logical choice to lead FAR. And I think I've told you this, Sally, a lot of people put your name in the hat when we were thinking about FAR directors. And so a lot of people agree that she was a logical choice for the first director. And as you may know, Sally is also a tireless advocate for early career scientists. All you early career scientists in the room? This dedication allowed her to build out the foundation's second mission to support scientific workforce development. FAR develops scientific workforce development programs to ensure that young scientists today are equipped with the knowledge required to address future challenges. However, my relationship with Sally began long before FAR was ever created. In fact, our mentor-mentee relationship goes back 2 decades. Sally was my first executive I worked for when joining the federal government. And she's been telling me what to do ever since. Seriously, through many different roles, many different federal roles, personal accomplishments, and challenges, she's been there for me. All it took is a phone call and meet me at the original Pancake House, and we're in. And I know that she's been there for so many others. One of Sally's early accomplishments was establishing the FFAR Fellows Program with North Carolina State University. Go Wolfpack. This program provides career guidance, mentorship, and professional development trainings to young graduate and doctoral students. The FFAR Board of Directors recently renamed it the, join me in saying it, Rockey FFAR Fellows in Sally's honor, allowing her legacy of supporting young scientists to continue for years to come. To discuss the program further, Dr. John Dole, Interim Dean for the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at North Carolina State University, is joining us today. So I'd like to turn the floor over to Dr. Dole to talk more in depth about the value of the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program and its importance to the scientific community. Thank you, Dr. Dole.
Good evening. As Dr. Jacobs Young said, I am the Interim Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at North Carolina State University. I am here in that capacity and also as one of the founders of the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program. And I have to say, a big fan of Dr. Rockey. The FFAR Fellows Program was launched in 2018 as a collaboration among industry, academia, and government to provide PhD students with the professional skills that they need to be career ready and become leaders. This program provides a unique combination of high-level training, mentorship, and programmatic support. It has brought together close to 30 universities from the United States and Canada, with dozens of leading companies, centers, and foundations, and with the Foundation for Food and Agriculture Research. This audience, more than most, knows the challenges facing us, and through the Rockey FFAR Fellows, we are creating the future leaders who will address these challenges. The fellows are already making a difference with their research. I will tell you, as a lifelong learner, I've been thrilled to see and hear about the research programs of the FFAR Fellows. Just as food and agriculture is amazingly diverse, so is the work of our fellows. Their work starts with the soil, focusing on manure recycling, biochar for soil health, carbon stored in prairie soils, and regenerative agriculture. They are focusing on plants with plant fungal interactions, mechanical harvesting of blueberries, cacao nutrition, crop genetics and breeding, sweet potato, wheat, and corn disease resistance, plant growth promoting microbes, insect resistance, and herbicide resistance in weeds. On the animal side, they are resolving challenges with cattle nutrition, swine heat stress, cattle and swine breeding, and food animal health and well-being. Cross-agricultural products include biofuels, alternative proteins, satellite and drone remote sensing, database decision-making tools, and water management modeling. As you can see, just an amazing array of cool projects benefiting agriculture and life sciences. And these are only a few of the projects the fellows are working on. In my position, one of the words I hear most is impact. Students want their jobs and careers to have a positive impact. As you've heard, the Rockey FFAR Fellows are already making an impact. Faculty and staff want to help others reach their full potential. Certainly, all of us want to make a positive difference in some way. We are here today to say thank you to someone who never has to wonder if she has had an impact. Through her own actions and by empowering others, Dr. Sally Rockey has had a tremendous influence on agriculture, food, and life sciences across the country and indeed the globe. We are thrilled that he has chosen to add to her significant legacy by lending her name and support to the FFAR Fellows. Each year, she provides an inspirational keynote address to the Fellows, and through her support and that of others, she will help many more students become FFAR Fellows. In the next portion of this program, I have the pleasure of introducing a special tribute video prepared in honor of Dr. Rockey. This tribute video features commentary about Dr. Rockey's lasting impact and her many accomplishments as FFAR's inaugural director, as Dr. Jacobs Young mentioned. With that, I'd like to turn the program over to the Honorable Dan Glickman, former Secretary of Agriculture and a current Senior Fellow at the Bipartisan Policy Center. Senator Debbie Stabenow, a United States Senator from Michigan and Chair of the Senate Agricultural Committee. Senator Pat Roberts, a former U.S. Senator from Kansas. Roberts is the first and only member of Congress to serve as Chair and Ranking Member for the House of Representatives and Senate Agricultural Committees. And with that, I'd like to turn the program over to the Honorable Dan Glickman.
Welcome, everybody, to this opportunity to toast our friend, our leader, our agricultural entrepreneur, Sally Rockey, on her years of service to FFAR. She has done a remarkable transformational job in building this entity from scratch to a major factor in food and agriculture research domestically and globally. And so this is an opportunity to thank her for her work. And we're privileged to have the authors, the mother and the father of FFAR are here, the people who started this whole thing. Debbie Stabenow and Pat Roberts. They were chair and ranking member alternatively of the Senate Agriculture Committee. Debbie still retains that title as chair, and Pat has the title of Supreme Former Chair. Supreme, I guess, like Supreme Allied Commander, Supreme Former Chair. And but it was their idea to get this going. This would not have happened without the leadership of the Stabenow Roberts team, as well as the Senate Ag Committee, that kind of carried this ball forward and made it happen, working with the agricultural and food community, the Department of Agriculture, and a lot of others. And so I want to welcome Debbie and Pat, ask them to say a few words about FAR and Sally. And so I'll first call on Debbie because she's still in the job, so to speak. Debbie?
Well, Dan, thank you so much. And hi, Paul. I feel if we're mom and pa here of FAR, it's great to be on the Zoom with my wonderful partner, Pat Roberts. We've been through so much together, and I can't think of anything I'm prouder of than being able to put together the foundation together. And Sally has been incredible, absolutely incredible. You know, I think a couple of years ago, right before COVID really shut everything down, we were together at a wonderful climate conference and really focusing on what FAR, I believe, Dan, that you were there, and I know that former Vice President Al Gore was there, and we were focused on, you know, the role of research supporting our farmers and ranchers and foresters and what needs to happen around the climate crisis. And to see FAR really take the lead on that, as well as so many other things, from helping my cherry growers with the pests that are attacking them, to feed alternatives for our dairy farmers. So many different things. It's been really exciting to see. And, you know, Pat, when I think about it, you know, our whole goal was to put up a foundation that would be similar to health foundations, and that you set up a public-private effort. We put $1 in the federal government, and then then $1 comes from the private sector. And looking at the numbers now, I've just been blown away. $1.40 for every $1 in federal money we've put in. And when you think about it, we've put in, I think, $385 million over the next 10 years. And if you double that with the match, and then you add the additional money, we're looking at close to $1 billion in investments in agricultural research. And it's so important, and I can't think of a more important time, frankly, to support our growers. And I can't think of a more important partner than Pat Roberts. We got this done because we did it together. And so I'm gonna hand over to Pat. Hi, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm in pretty good shape for the shape I'm in. How about that?
You're looking good.
Kudos to Dan, who has been my dear friend for so many years. We don't want to mention it. We were in the house together. I knew his folks, and his dad, Milt, was a special friend of mine. He had a sense of humor like none other.
Like
should
you
have been
did.
on the stage, and he would have said, "Yeah, the one that left." I pulled a practical joke on Dan when I had his dad come in and sit on the Republican side as a staffer right next to me. He was the chairman at that particular time, taking the place of, what was it, Foley or De La Garza or whatever. Anyway, he was the chairman, and invited his dad come in to see it. And you talk about a double take. He asked me a question, and I said, "Just a minute, I have to check with my top assistant." And he looked over there, and there was his dad. It was the greatest double take, I think, in the history, at least, of the Ag Committee. But anyway, Dan and I have been great buddies. And Debbie is, or Deb, or who we used to, and Deb, you don't know this, but when things got a little tough and you were getting a little assistance, I would say, "Now, what on earth does Stabs want now?" Or the redhead. I think you probably prefer the redhead.
Right.
But we got along, and we knew that certainty and predictability in getting the Farm Bill done was tops in terms of our efforts. We had to get it done. So all of the things that she wanted and all the things that I wanted, I sort of knew, well, we knew each other, so we knew what there was going to be. And so we decided, all right, we can't have everything that we want. Colin Pearson went along with our 4-member conference. We had to sort of talk, I had to sort of talk. I moved you just a little bit during that conference. And I think it helped because we had that 60 vote margin. I don't want to get into this too much, but if we didn't have 60 votes, we weren't going to do anything. So you had to be bipartisan. And that we were. And we got, what was it, 87 votes for the farm bill.
87, yes.
Yeah, 87 votes, which I think set a record. I'm not sure we could do that today, and I'm not sure where the hell we're headed today, but that's beside the point. Sally Rockey is a pioneer. She is, I don't know quite how to describe it anyway. When Deb came to me, and I think also Senator Klobuchar had a big role to play in this. And then I was the lonesome polecat on the Republican side because it was new and it was, innovative, and it was taking valuable dollars from our farm bill efforts in traditional agriculture or production agriculture. But the more I looked at it, and the more revolutionary, really, the way it was and the way Sally sold it, plus all of her very valuable assistants, and plus she had the chairperson on her side or the distinguished ranking member or me. And so we set out to create a brand new research program and make it unique and say, okay, where do we really need to concentrate this money rather than the traditional research monies? I remember during Jimmy Whitten's time, all that money went to Mississippi, where you could touch it, feel it, and it was in Mississippi. Sally Rockey is a pioneer, and she was very innovative. There were times that staff would come into me and I'd say, could I see the list of what we think is important with regards to FAR's latest effort? I never will forget when it was my plate, your plate. I said, what the hell is this? Are we doing the school lunch program all over again with all the problems we had, the regs and the paperwork and whatever? I was one who didn't think the founding fathers, if anybody remembers founding fathers, sat around and it was Ben Franklin said, I got a great idea. We've done Declaration of Independence, we've done the Bill of Rights, and we've done the Constitution. What do we do next? And Franklin said, I got a great idea. Let's mandate what people eat. Now that was my story at the first. So my plate, your plate didn't quite get my attention perhaps the way it should, until staff sat me down and said, well, now let's just take a look at this a minute. And I, of course, didn't want to do that. I didn't have enough time. So they made me take a look at it. And then it made sense. And that was Sally's brilliance, that she could even get an old negative guy like me, the duty pessimist. I want to take care of things in the regular farm bill and get the doggone thing done. So did Deborah with her beloved cherry trees. But Sally was so innovative, and she was so determined. I mean, she would be very nice, and she would come in and she would agree with all of my concerns, and then we would do it her way. And I think she's really unique from the standpoint of somebody who comes to Washington and wants to make a difference. There are quite a few of us who want to do that, very few who really achieve it. And she is one who did just that. Changed the research funding, made it possible for people to take a look at something new and innovative that would really be of help to people that heretofore had didn't have that benefit. And there were matching funds. I mean, you had to match the funds. And as you has pointed out, now we're making money. Imagine that. So Dr. Raleigh, or Sally, what a magnificent job that you have done. And I apologize for any, backtracking or foot dragging. Foot dragging is a better word. After all, if I did, it didn't make any difference, because I know that, Deborah would convince me otherwise.
Well, Pat,
and Dan should get a big attaboy award, because he was right behind us. And so is Mark down in Mississippi State. And so are a whole lot of other people that were, advising this group. But it was Sally that really led the way.
Yeah,
I'm
Debbie.
going to jump in, Dan, just add my support for what Pat said, it really was Sally. I mean, incredible. As the end, we've been so lucky, Sally. Thank you so much for your time and being the inaugural director to get FAR to this incredible place of long-term vision, now looking internationally at ag mission, looking longer term at what we need to do in terms of supporting our farmers and access to food and what's happening in a global economy. So I couldn't agree more, Pat. This, we've been so lucky to have Sally and her vision and tenacity, and she's made an incredible difference.
I just would add to what both you said. First of all, the real leadership did come from you two. So we need, and it shows you the power of the Congress when you can get together and work together as you both have. And, when I first heard about this, it was Tom Vilsack who called me up and he said, well, Congress has put this in the Farm Bill. We got to get this thing organized. Would you like to chair it? And I said, okay, I'll chair it. I was out of office and I thought, I could keep my fingers in agriculture and agricultural research. And then we had to start and hire somebody new. And so we had a great group of board members. You mentioned Mark Keenan, but there are lots of others and terrific staff. But we had to pick somebody to lead this thing. And so we went through this list of people and one after the other, and nobody really hit us like out of the park, so to speak. And then our last interview, they were all fine people, but they didn't quite meet the test. And the last interview, this woman who had a PhD in agriculture, plant entomology. She'd worked in the agriculture research part of USDA. She'd also had great experience working at the NIH in the pharmaceutical area as well. And she turned out to be not only a great scientist, but a great politician. She knew how to work the Hill really well. She knew how to work Pat Roberts really well, which I never was able to do during all my years in government.
Come on.
Now, Debbie, I could work with very easily, but Pat, usually I could work with well. But Pat always had a few words to say to me, like, let's talk about it, let's think about it, and maybe it was good. But we ended up with something really good here, and I think it's an example of what can be done. Especially, she took this from ground zero. This was a nothing, and we made it into one of the major agriculture research institutions, not only in the United States, but in the world as well. And so the fact that you two have been such a seminal part of this effort, and and we have so many other people. You mentioned Mark Keenan. We have a lot of other terrific board members and staff who are here. So I think at this stage, what we ought to do is kind of give a toast to Sally, to say, thank you, well done, best of luck for a tremendous future. And we just thank you for everything you've done for farmers and ranchers and food producers and for the world at large. So here's to you, Sally.
Sally.
It's the real stuff, Sally.
Are you going to intro me or?
Well, thank you so much. I first want to just point out to Sarah and Colleen that I actually have a speech. They always give me talking points, and they know that it's really ignoring points because I never, ever read from a script, but today I felt like that it was important that I did. This has been such an honor to have this celebration here today of FAR, our FAR Fellows, and my career. I want to thank Senator Stabenow and Roberts for their incredible vision and letting us realize their vision in the way that we did. Of course, their constant support, really all throughout our beginnings, was so essential to the success we've had. Of course, Dan Glickman, who was the first chair of board, the board chair of FAR, he also has become just a wonderful friend. I did work for Secretary Glickman back when I was at the USDA, but we've become very close friends, and he's just an amazing storyteller and just a great guy and a wonderful first chair of our board. Of course, our our current board chair, which is President Keenum, Mark Keenum from Mississippi State University. He's also been wonderful and has been so supportive of everything we've done and all of our accomplishments. So he's been just a constant advocate for FAR. And all of our board members, as was pointed out by Secretary Glickman, our board members have been astounding in support of our programs and our vision. And we've had just such an important vision, as you've heard, of creating these partnerships to have innovation in science. So I want to thank the board. Shavonda Jacobs-Young, Dr. Jacobs-Young, I knew the moment we met you, we had a shining star in our midst. And thank you for the great partnership with the USDA and, of course, our wonderful relationship as friends and colleagues over the past 20 years. I really appreciate it. To John Dole and Rebecca Dunning, really you were the inspiration in bringing FAR Fellows Program to life. And of course, to Lakeisha Odom for your creative drive and envisioning really every aspect of the FAR Fellows and the wonderful work that you've done and seeing it through from our first cohort to this magnificent cohort that's with us today, or the last cohort, and many of the other fellows from other cohorts who are with us today. And finally, I want to thank the FAR staff. I mean, I can honestly say I have never worked with such a talented group of individuals. And I think when I retire next Tuesday, when I wake up next Tuesday, I think that's what I'm going to miss the most, is all of the wonderful, wonderful FAR staff. It's been an amazing privilege to work as the leader of this organization, as executive director. We had many ups and downs, as you all know. We had many setbacks, but many, many, many successes. And I don't think we could have imagined where we are today. I mean, we really, really began as an organization undefined. We didn't quite know where we're going, but now we are at the forefront of innovation. We're the center. We're a centerpiece of many of the major initiatives here together in agriculture and food. And we've created this nimble organization that can really find partners and work on our most pressing issues. So that's been just amazing to see this organization grow. Whether it be all the many convening events that we've had, our Foster Our Future program, which was the place to be in the middle of winter in Washington, D.C. to talk about agriculture, and the consortia that we built. We have built many consortia which have brought partners together, really a coalition of the willing, a coalition of groups that want to fund in a certain area and then work together to recognize that no one single organization can do it alone. So we have to create these consortia, which has really taken research and our partnerships to greater heights across the nation. And of course, one of the most rewarding parts of the experience I've had as FAR executive director is all the amazing people I've met along the way in every aspect, from farmers to scientists to politicians to just leaders of organizations. It's just been amazing. But it's been our unwavering support of the next generation of scientists that has really, it's probably the thing that I'm most proud. I mean, we have crafted all of our workforce programs in such a way to support individuals in ag research and science at all of their stages. And meeting every year with the new cohort of FAR Fellows is really the highlight of my year. I see these wonderful people with all their dreams ahead of them, and so proud that we've been able to be part of realizing their dreams. And when I see all of you, I know our future is bright. And maybe, just maybe, there's another FAR executive director in your midst for the future. And I challenge each of you to choose a job you love so that you never have to work again a day in your life. So Abraham Lincoln said that the best way to predict the future is to create it. And that's really what we did here at FAR. We created something special, and we funded incredible people, and we funded incredible science, and we made amazing partnerships. And we had damn fun doing it. I mean, it has been a joy to come to work every day at FAR. We just enjoy ourselves so much. So lastly, I just close again by saying thank you. In my 36 years in research administration and managing science, I have never received such support as I have in this job. It's not only supporting me, but what we have accomplished and what we're trying to accomplish. It's been the perfect job for me to end my career. It has just been absolutely wonderful. It's the cherry on top of my career, and I never thought I could have greater jobs than what I had at NIH and USDA, but far eclipsed all of that. And it's really unimaginable for me to wake up next Tuesday and I will no longer be the executive director of FAR. But I'm always going to follow the organization, and I'm going to enjoy vicariously all of the triumphs that that the future holds for you, and for this what we call this small but mighty place. So I'll end just by saying, and remember, together we'll go far. All of you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
To follow that. So I'm just gonna get out of the way of this excellent sandwich y'all are about to have right now. I'm just the middle piece. This is the rest of the excellent sandwich you're about to experience. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lakeisha Odom, Scientific Program Director here at FAR, and I have the pleasure of having the Rockey FFAR Fellows in my portfolio. I think I have the easiest job tonight because I just get to introduce this amazing panel. It is my extreme honor to introduce you all to Dr. Rebecca Dunning, who will share more about the program and introduce some of our fellows from the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program, which is really one of the most exciting programs in my portfolio. I think I've been in awe, and you will be as well, of the caliber of the students that the fellowship has attracted. And I think that you'll hear directly from our fellows shortly, but I would be remiss if I didn't emphasize how inspiring it has been working with Rebecca and John and watching the fellowship, and more importantly, the fellows evolve. So I'm going to get out the way so you can get to the good part of the excellent sandwich.
Hi, everyone. I am an academic from NC State University, so I do have some slides available. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Okay, thank you for those slides. It has been an incredibly rewarding experience to develop the FFAR Fellows Program, along with Dr. Rockey, Dr. Odom, Dr. Joel, and the staff at FFAR and also at NC State University. And it's been an incredible pleasure and honor to see the fellows develop over time and to have worked with about 80 students, PhD students, over the past 4 years and see and celebrate their growth into confident, capable, and content students, graduate students, and people, great people. Next slide. So the FFAR Fellows operates on a cohort model. We're currently recruiting for our 5th cohort. Groups of about 25 PhD students travel together across 3 years during their graduate programs. They usually enter the program when they are 1st or 2nd year PhDs. Next slide, thank you. Okay. Each year, the cohorts have grown a little bit larger, and our desire is to have as many participants play a part in the FFAR Fellows as possible without losing the beneficial aspects of having an integrated cohort. We have about 30 universities represented by the students, with sponsors in addition to FFAR's sponsorship, match sponsorship from industry, including global companies as well as startups, commodity organizations, NGOs, and also university programs. As Dr. Joel mentioned in the introduction, students come from across the ag sciences, agronomy, crop sciences, breeding, molecular genetics, animal science, food science. But what ties them together is that they all want to make an impact. They want to have a meaningful difference, and they know that to do so, they need to go beyond just the technical skills. And they're willing to put in the hard work to do so, put in the hard work on what we often call, click, click, the soft skills, sometimes called professional development or leadership training. But what do we mean by soft skills? And what do we mean by that, especially in the context of a 3-year training program with the FFAR Fellows? What we mean largely is learning how to work with people. learning to work in groups, learning to work in teams. So the FAR, that means recognizing and dealing with conflict, understanding and managing different communication styles and working with people, accepting critique in the workplace, giving valuable feedback, and communicating to different publics and learning to listen effectively to different groups of people. So if we think about our graduate students in programs across the US and Canada, they're getting excellent technical training. They're getting years. They're taking years to hone their technical capabilities, but it's rare that they get more than a handful of days to hone these type of skills, to learn about how to work with other people. As someone made a comment today, being a scientist is more than just knowing science, right? If you want to do science, it's more than just knowing science. It's having all these other skills. And that is what the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program is. Next slide, please. All right, so it's based on 3 program pillars. The first of these is training and exposure. Students are together over a 3-year period. They meet in person 5 times over the 3-year period, and virtually. They learn supervision and management skills, mentoring skills. They take self-assessments and design professional development annual plans that they work on. So they're working on things like emotional intelligence, how they can communicate better in the workplace. So spending a lot of time working on self and then learning how to work with others. They also get a great deal of exposure to different career paths, so meeting with individuals from various industries, with the public sector, being in DC for this group so that they can actually have face-to-face meetings, so they can get an idea of, is that a good career trajectory for me? So in the meeting today, Maria, mentioned to us that, she just heard a great speaker. She's like, oh, now is that the career I want to have? There's so many opportunities. There's so many things that scientists can do. So that's what I think the FFAR Fellows really opens up to students. A second pillar is what I mentioned previously, is that they're in cohorts together, so they have supportive peers. So they're traveling together down this stressful road, down this stressful highway that is the PhD program. It can be very stressful. And they have a group of supportive peers. So more than anything else, what I hear from the FFAR Fellows is that's what makes it such a rich experience for them, is sharing what they do with another really tight group of graduate students. The third pillar is supportive mentors. So every FFAR Fellow has a mentor team consisting of their advisor at their university, someone from their industry sponsor or other sponsors, or someone else from industry, and then 1 or 2 other mentors that are outside of academia typically, definitely outside their university. If they're interested in the public sector, they might have someone from USDA. If they're interested in science writing, they might have someone who is a science writer. If they're interested in policy, they might have someone from AAAS. So they get a mentor team that supports them as well as peer support. So that is the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program, just to give you a little taste. And now I want you to hear directly from 3 fellows that I'm going to allow to introduce themselves, because they would do the best job on that, and tell us a little bit about what they've experienced over the past couple of years. Kelsey. Oh.
Hi, you guys can all hear me? Yeah, okay. My name is Kelsey Peterson, and I am a PhD candidate at the University of Minnesota, and I have been a FFAR Fellow since 2019, and I want to brag about my cohort today. Although I remember I was supposed to tell you a little bit about my science. I was so excited to tell you about my cohort, I forgot about my science. I don't know how many PhD students can say that. I work on perennial grains, and what I do is study wild populations for traits of interest, such as pest or pathogen resistance in these wild populations. Essentially, I let Mother Nature do the hard work for me, and I swoop in after decades of pest and pathogen pressure and identify traits that have allowed these plants to be fit in these wild populations, and then incorporate them into breeding populations. The goal of this is to enhance and speed up our breeding process with my industry partner for the FFAR Fellowship, which is the Land Institute, which is the pioneering research organization investigating perennial grains as a sustainable, some would say alternative, I would say addition to modern agriculture. Perennial grains are well known for erosion control and adding to a farmer's tool belt of ways to confront the challenges of agriculture. That's my science. I work on perennial grains. I love what I do, but being a FAR Fellow has really enhanced my PhD experience, and I'm not paid to be up here right now, so this is all very candid. Also relatively unscripted. But it's one of the most invaluable pieces of my PhD career is having a cohort of fellows to go through this PhD experience with. And I remember showing up to our first FAR Fellow retreat being really nervous because I thought I had a lot to prove. I needed to prove my science. I needed to prove myself. I needed to prove that I deserved to be there. And I walked in, and in the first 30 minutes, I recognized I don't need to prove anything. These people are warm and friendly, and they're all doing amazing science, and my science fits right in there with them. And it was extremely motivating from day one to be considered a FAR Fellow in that cohort. And since then, it all hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. PhDs are really hard. Rebecca said it well. She said stressful 3 times. And I was like, yeah, that's true. It is hard. But we don't do this alone as FAR Fellows. We share our victories and we share our defeats. We talk about our barriers together. And I know they're called soft skills, but they're actually kind of hard sometimes. If you've ever taken an active listening course or training, active listening is really hard, and people aren't very good at it. So we practice this together, and we work through our personalities, strengths, and weaknesses together. And when you do that with people, you bond. And I do feel like agriculture and science and nutrition and food security, as we move forward, isn't going to be an individualist career path. You're always going to work in teams, and you're always going to work in groups. So when you get trained as a young professional to do that, that's what your training is about as a PhD candidate. You're so well set up for a professional life, professional career. And I would say too, like, I would tell organizations now, I feel like I'm selling FAR Fellowship. I promise I'm not being paid. Like, when you hire a FAR Fellow, you hire that FAR Fellow and their cohort, which is a bunch of fellows that are like leading scientists in food security and nutrition and agriculture, sustainable agriculture. That's a pretty big deal. And I just feel so honored to be up here, and I can't thank everybody in this room enough. And I learned some things tonight about how hard people work. Like, Sally, thank you so much for pushing for this. I just feel honored to be up here, and I can't tell you how invaluable my experience was as a FAR Fellow is. I'm almost done. I'm still a FAR Fellow. And we do have a joke, which is, you don't sign a contract for this, but once a FAR Fellow, you're always a FAR Fellow. So add me on, LinkedIn, but I'll find you in other ways. We're all friends. By the way, Alex is in my cohort and Sarah's not. And half of the people, wait. Half of the people in this room are in my cohort and half the people are not. But I automatically feel like we're all in one big team together. We're all in one big cohort. Sarah and I actually friends from a conference earlier this year where we saw each other's like FAR name tags, and we immediately were like, oh, we're FAR Fellows together. And like, that kind of networking is just so powerful. And I'm honored to be up here with you two. And I appreciate FAR Fellow opportunity, the Rockey FFAR Fellow opportunity. So thank you very much.
Nope.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I don't have a license for this. So my name is Alex Batson, and I'm a PhD student at Washington State University, and I'm studying plant pathology. So I'm essentially training to be a plant doctor. Plants get sick too. And I actually started my master's program at the same university working on the same topic. And I study a disease of spinach that's particularly troublesome for spinach seed producers in Western Oregon and Western Washington. And one thing that's interesting about spinach seed is that you can really only produce it in a couple of places around the globe, and that's because spinach will require specific climatic requirements in order to produce flowers and high quality seed. And so in the United States, Western Oregon and Western Washington is the only place where you can produce it, and it accounts for up to 20% of the global supply. And so during my master's, I studied a fungal disease that causes a wilt of spinach, and I was interested in figuring out what particular genes were associated with that pathogen. And if we could do that, how can we use that knowledge for developing solutions to manage the disease? And I gained a lot of technical skills during my master's program that were really helpful for me. But what I found was I was very shy, and it was challenging for me to work effectively on a team. So in order for me to advance in my career, I recognized I needed a more robust set of skills. And once I found out about the Rockey FFAR Fellowship, that seemed like an excellent opportunity for me. So I applied, and I'm super thankful that I'm here. And one of the most impactful experiences that I've had in this fellowship is, of course, as Kelsey mentioned, getting to know a cohort of other scientists in my field. But in particular, I found that I've gained a lot more self-confidence as a scientist, but also as a team member and as a friend and a family member. So Rebecca mentioned one of the workshops that we had, and I remember this so vividly. It was the active listening workshop at our first FAR Fellowship meeting in Raleigh. And that was one of the, as Kelsey mentioned too, that was one of the hardest workshops for me because I had to be vulnerable for once. I had to be vulnerable and chat with people about a problem that I was actually dealing with and try to help others with the problems they were facing. And as a master's student, I would be the student who holes up in the lab and would be that scientist late in the evening. But this really broke me out of my shell. And in addition to the experiences that we've had with workshops and webinars, I've also developed a really strong relationship with my industry mentor. He is in the vegetable seed industry, and he has a career position that I would really like. I love working with growers and using basic science and translating that science into applied management strategies. And so for the past 2.5 years, we've been meeting monthly. We'll have lunch, or we might go grab a beer, and it's just fantastic to see what he's worked on and how he can help me advance through my career. And overall, one of the most impactful things from this fellowship is I've seen myself develop, self-confidence, and I feel like I'm a better colleague and team member. And I've developed professionally, certainly, but I think I've developed personally too. And I've seen the relationships I have with my friends, family, and my wife. They've improved immensely since I began this fellowship. So thank you all. And Sally, thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you all to celebrate Dr. Sally Rockey in this program. My name is Sarah Kezar. I'm a PhD student at Texas A&M, and what I'm studying is weed science, and one weed in particular that's quite tricky called Palmer amaranth. And I'm studying that in cotton production systems, even though it's a problem all across North America and now in several countries. And what's tricky about this weed is it's resistant to multiple herbicide modes of action, or how we chemically kill this weed. And so what my research is looking at is a multi-tactic approach, as we like to call it, or management practices that we can do to sustain the utility of our herbicides, but also look at all other management tactics and from like a biological approach as well. So I'm doing that in a cotton production system on behalf of as well my industry sponsor, Cotton Incorporated. That is also an honor to work with through this program. First, I'd like to really echo what both Kelsey and Alex said about this program, but what I wanted to focus on today is what was impactful to me was the third pillar that Rebecca talked about, which was the mentorship program of the Rockey Fellows Program. And so essentially how that worked, Alex touched on a bit. And when we started our PhD experience, we were encouraged to pick 1 to 2 mentors aside from our advisor in our areas of interest. So my area of interest was industry. And I was a little enthusiastic, and I picked 3 mentors. And then I was so excited about it even more after a year of this experience that I now have 4. So thanks, Rebecca, for letting me capitalize on that opportunity. But they represent companies like Bayer, Corteva, Syngenta, and then one is from Cotton Incorporated, my industry sponsor. And essentially it was hard at first, honestly, to reach out to these important people, right? And say, hey, I'm a Rockey FFAR Fellow. I'd love to connect with you and build a relationship and have you as a mentor.
But it was easy to relate to them after I had the professional development program, which we work on every year, which we have target areas that we'd like to improve, our soft skills or how we work with, dealing with adaptability, things of that nature. And you could relate to your mentors on like a personal and professional level. And that really helped me to build a rapport with them to the point where I went to one of my mentors' homes for lunch with his family when I was in Raleigh. I toured a cotton field and a couple other cropping systems in Texas with another mentor. And one of my mentors texted me today and was like, hey, I'm going to be in College Station next week. Do you want to grab lunch? And so it's been awesome to have this really fruitful relationship come from this mentor team that I've had the ability to build through this program, to the point where I am going to visit Germany in May to visit BEAR and BASF. And one of the contacts I actually got, my advisor didn't know anyone, but I was like, okay, I have a network from my mentors. And from their network, they were able to connect me with someone to make that experience possible for, the foundation for our future careers. And that's going to be so impactful for us, not only to learn from these individuals now, but in the future. And kind of like what Dr. Jacobs-Young was saying with her relationship with Dr. Rockey lasting 2 decades now, and they've built this beautiful program, from that, part of it being your mentorship and the relationship you've built. And I know that these experiences we have now, just one of them being the mentor program, could hopefully be a great path for a future. Thank you to you, Sally.
Perfect. I'd like to bring up another 3 students, continue, but we don't have time. So we're going to close it out. I would like to make an appeal. As you know, the FAR Fellows Program was recently renamed the Rockey FFAR Fellows Program, and at that same time, the foundation established the Rockey FFAR Fellows Fund to support the professional development track of this fellowship program in perpetuity. Fellows from smaller universities or those with less established research departments may struggle to secure the matching funds that are required, or necessary to participate. The Rockey FFAR Fellows Fund aims to make the program available to a broader range of participants by not requiring them to secure matching funds. Bolstering the diversity of fellows paves the way for the development of a well-rounded scientific workforce prepared to tackle future food and agricultural challenges. On behalf of FAR, I'd like to thank everyone who has donated to the Rockey FFAR Fellows Fund thus far, and encourage anyone who wants to donate to visit the FAR website for details on how to do so. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Alex, Sarah, Kelsey, or should I call you Pete? Thank you for your comments. I think that you guys are on the right track. Technical competence is important, but the ability to work well with others will take you far. Oh, you see what I did there? So thank you for sharing your comments, and thank you for your leadership, and Lakeisha, and to Sally, to everyone that's working with our fellows, and thank you to all the fellows who are in the room today. In USDA, only 8% of our employees are under the age 35. Let that soak in. USDA is about 100 to 120,000 people. So we need you. We need you all in a huge way, not just in federal government and federal research. We need you in industry. We need you in academia. And so thank you for taking this time to continue to round out your professional careers. And I'm excited for all of you. You have so many amazing opportunities. I wrote down spinach and then Palmer Amaranth. And yeah, so yeah, ARS is hiring. So thank you to all who support the Rockey FFAR Fellows. And thank you for everyone who joined us tonight, both here in person and virtually online. As Dr. Rockey said, our future is bright. And when we think about some of the young people we met tonight, sitting at your tables, I don't think you can disagree with that. That's why programs like this fellowship program are so important, and continue to really invest in our young people. The challenges we face in ag are so complex. No one organization, no one discipline can solve them. It's going to take all of us working together. And so I thank you for your commitment to being part of our STEM workforce. So it's been a pleasure. Sally, I will still be calling you, but we'll miss you at FAR. We'll miss you at the board meetings. We will miss you. I'll be thinking about you Tuesday morning. I think many of us will be thinking about you, but don't call you early. Is that what you're saying? Okay, not before 8. And then thank you to everybody who joined tonight to pay tribute to Dr. Rockey. Her incredible career, her tireless commitment to so many of us, both inside the organization she worked for and outside. And I just hope you all would join me in sending the best wishes to Sally in her retirement. And so with that, can we just give one more big round of applause for Dr. Sally Rockey. Hear, hear. Thank you.